United Way has been a very important part of our community for many years. When did you first get involved in supporting United Way?
Now, Brad, you always come up with a question to me that always indicates I'm going to have to tell you my age. And I know you're thinking this goes back to World War II, and did not serve in World War II. But to be honest with you, and seriously, I did serve on the very first United Way campaign fund. It was actually called United Way Fund. To give you a little history, Nabholz companies, of course, have always been involved in this from the very beginning. But a group of folks in 1953 actually tried to get a group together, an organization together, so we could have just one fund drive in Conway to eliminate having to go up and down the same street 5 times a year for different agencies that we were raising money for. And it took several years. It never really got off the ground, but in 1964 there was a group that reincorporated what was called the United Fund of Conway, and they called it the United Fund of Faulkner County, I believe, and Artie Nabholz, brother Bob Nabholz, was one of the board members of that reorganization, and he was also the first campaign chairman. And that year the budget for the United Way Fund was $25,000, and he was real happy because they made $26,000 that year. So I was on the board during that period of time, and so I actually go back to the original history of the United Fund, which was a forerunner of the United Way of Faulkner County.
That's great. So you started, he actually was involved in the very first campaign. You started the campaign, and 3 years later, I believe, the third one.
Yes, I think there was somebody else that was campaign chairman the second year. I believe it was Ted Hegel, and then he talked me into being the campaign chairman for the fund drive in 1967, I guess it would be. And I remember our goal was the budget was $30,000, and I think we came up a little bit short, and I always blame it on the bad economy,
Sure,
but I'm sure it
I
was probably
understand.
my inefficiencies in leading the campaign, but we worked real hard, and we thought that was a lot of money. And I'd like to fast forward while we're on that subject. 2002, I was asked to serve as campaign chairman again, and the folks that asked me didn't know that I'd already served in that capacity. So I reminded them that, trying to figure out a way to get out of this, that, well, I'd already served one time, and this was it didn't make my budget. And they said, "What's your budget?" And I said it was $30,000. I think we came up a little bit short. And they said, "Well, that's the reason you need to try again. You need to try this year. We've got $1 million budget we're going to have." And so I agreed to serve as a campaign chairman in 2002. I believe that was the year. And a lot of difference between $30,000 and $1 million. And there again, I think we come up a little bit short, and I'll blame it on the economy again. But really, everybody in Conway worked real hard to raise $1 million. But it just gives you a good example of how much difference there was in 1967 as far as the amount of money that we were trying to raise for United Way, and then in 2002.
Sure. Well, in addition to the fund drives that you chaired, you were also heavily involved in the board in the early years and also throughout that time. Tell us a little bit about some of the accomplishments that you achieved during your term.
Well, I think there was about 5 different agencies that were originally participating in the United Way or United Fund, and now there's over 17 or approximately 17. But during that period of time, as I got off the board and while the time I was on the board, the main emphasis in Conway was to broaden the database of donors to get more people to get involved, because sometimes in a way it was a little easier to get money 5 times a year. You might get more money going 5 times a year to the same person as opposed to getting that person to make one pledge for the same amount. So that was a little bit of a challenge to overcome. But through the efforts of making pledges, we finally the goal was to broaden the donor base and broaden the support of corporate giving as well as individual giving. And so that was always a challenge, because there was always more and more agencies that came in under the United Way umbrella. And so the whole idea was to be able to keep up with the population and keep up with the demand for services, and as the agencies grew. So that was continuing battle to do that, and I think we did a pretty good job over the years.
That's great. Well, United Way continues to do some fabulous work in both Faulkner and Perry County. What is it you love most about United Way?
Well, I think the United Way unites the folks in Conway, and it gives people an opportunity to come together. The events at United Way, the fundraising events throughout the year, gives a lot of people an opportunity to meet people they didn't meet otherwise, and it also gives an opportunity to showcase the agencies that are really doing a lot of good in Faulkner County. And so many people are unaware of the nonprofits that serve our community and the good that they do, because there are a lot of people in need, and there are various nonprofits that tend to those needs. And I think that to me, that was the best satisfaction of realizing that, hey, there are a lot of folks that are hurting and that are in need, but there are also a lot of good nonprofit agencies staffed by a lot of volunteers to help raise funds to help those people who are in most need.
Well, the needs are going to continue, and they are continuing to increase throughout the two counties that the United Way of Central Arkansas serves. What do you see as the future of the United Way?
Well, the continuing effort to market itself, to make sure that that as our population grows, that there are enough people to support the financial needs as well as the other needs of the county. And I think that corporate giving is, of course, the bulk of the money that is being raised, and I think raising awareness and getting more corporations to support United Way. We have 2 or 3 corporations in Conway. Back in the early days, I was really impressed with folks like Kimberly-Clark, and there were other corporations that would, it's part of their corporate culture to require or to ask or to make sure that all their employees understand that they have an obligation to help when they can other nonprofits in the community. So having the backing of the companies that employ people to not only maybe challenge their employees' gifts, but I think as far as the future, United Way will always be looking towards broadening that donor base, and then making sure that all the agencies that participate have kind of a network together where they can understand what each agency is providing, so there's no overlapping in there, and to try to eliminate any abusers, people who use these services, and make sure that the people being served are the ones that are in most need.
Well, 1 in 3 people will actually benefit in some way from a United Way program, yet only 1 in 10 actually contribute financially to the United Way Fund. What challenge would you like to issue to the employees of Nabholz Construction?
Well, Brad, I'm so proud of the history of the Nabholz employees throughout the year. I don't think there's a year gone by since the 1964 inception that we did not have a good majority of our employees participate. We've offered a payroll deduction plan, I think, in years past, and the Nabholz family and the Nabholz employees have always supported United Way, and I'm very, very proud of that. And I guess it would be my dream, since this is maybe in my later years of serving in the community and supporting United Way, it would be my dream if Nabholz Construction Company would have 100% participation in this year's United Way campaign. And you don't have to give very much; just whatever you can give is up to you. I'm always reminded of the Bible story about the widow's mite, that her 2 pennies or her 2 mites that she gave in the eyes of God were worth a lot more than what the wealthy person gave, that only gave beyond what he needed for himself. So I think if everybody would look around and see others' needs, and United Way is a wonderful opportunity to help others when maybe you don't know exactly how you could do otherwise. So if Nabholz Construction Company would participate 100% this year, it would be a great help to United Way, and United Way certainly appreciates the past support that our employees have given. And so I guess it would be my dream and my hope that, and my challenge to Nabholz employees to, when the time comes to sign up and and whatever financial ability you have to give generously to United Way.
You bet. Well, I think that's a fantastic challenge, and I have no doubt that the generosity and the long success of the Team Nabholz members will contribute and rise and meet that challenge. And I think it's important for everyone to understand, too, that 100% of every dollar that they give remains right here in Faulkner and Perry County. So the contributions they make are going to have a direct impact on their neighbors and friends. And they can also, if I'm not mistaken, they can actually designate specific agencies if they don't want to just give to the United Way generally. They can designate a specific agency for their funds.
Yes, that's always been the case, and I've always had some wonderful experiences when I was campaign chairman to kind of finalize this interview. It was always enjoyable for me when I was invited to come to one of the industrial plants, for several of them for that matter, to maybe talk during the break time and talk about United Way, and the people that lived all over Faulkner County and other counties would come up later, and a lot of these people were not making a great amount of money, but they wanted to participate, and they said, well, I've always wanted to help, and they mentioned a specific agency. It might have been, at that time, it might have been the Red Cross that their father was helped during the war, and it might have been some other agency that they had some specific knowledge about. So it is true that you can designate your money if you don't want it to go to one of the agencies that's participating. Obviously, if you want it to go to a specific agency, you can so designate. So yes, that's true, and I think that's a way to accommodate people's wishes, and that would be a wonderful thing if they would do that.
Any final comments as we close out the interview? And I want to certainly personally thank you for the long-term support that you've given United Way and the leadership that you provided, not only to that, but many community organizations throughout the years. So is there any final thoughts or comments you'd like to leave?
Well, I just want to thank Julie and all the folks at Nabholz who are helping up heading up the Nabholz campaign. And thank you, Brad, for your leadership in promoting United Way and within our company. And I know that there are a lot of demands on our time and money, but this is an opportunity that maybe would be the only opportunity sometimes people would have to help others who are less fortunate than themselves. So thank you all for considering United Way, and thank everybody who's helping in the organization to make this a real successful year for Nabholz.